Thank you for joining us today for another episode of A Focus on Careers. Today we are fortunate enough to have Erin Bailey join us, and Erin's going to take us through her career, her current role, and how she works there and what she does, and the trials and tribulations of her day-to-day existence in her career, as all our career experts have been giving us. So without any further ado, I'll hand over to you, Erin. Thank you.
Hi, how you going?
Good, thank you.
That's good.
So tell us a little bit about, what you do. I mean, that ever-present question that's asked at barbecues. What do you do?
Yes.
Right, in Australia? So
I know.
what do you do?
That is one of the first things that comes up, isn't it? It's
Exactly right.
it's an easy small talk kind of question. Some people I find it's sometimes hard to answer. And I suppose what I do in my current role, I work for Dell Technologies. So I'm actually a data center account manager. And I've worked for them for probably about 3 years now. So I basically work with businesses to help build out their data center infrastructure so that they can service their own customers.
Wow. I mean, data is a hot topic, has been for a while. So data centers, data security, data management, all these sorts of things. And today, I guess, your role would be extremely busy, extremely important for business all over, not just Australia, but all over the world, with remote working and remote access, and being able to keep that data there secure and at fingertips. So how have you been finding that?
It's been a pretty exciting time. As you said there, data is the new gold or the new oil these days. It is so crucial and so important to so many businesses. Businesses that are trying to gain that business insight to gain their competitive edge on their competitors. Super important. So especially with COVID, and as you said, with the trying to access, remote learning, remote work, having to work from home. I've been working from home now for probably 18 months now, since COVID's kind of hit us, and kind of being able to set up the home desktop and kind of have access to all the systems and ensure that the security is still maintained there as well, has been super challenging but exciting at the same time. I think working with our customers to navigate and help them achieve what they still need to achieve while kind of going through this transition ourselves has been, challenging, but an exciting time. We've obviously been extremely busy trying to keep everyone and supply the demand. I think we're currently going through a global shortage, industry-wide shortage of laptops and parts to build all the laptops, because everyone's just all of a sudden needed to have access at home. So that's a lot of companies and businesses and schools and things are in a world of pain trying to demand, we're just the undersupply and over demand is proving a bit challenging at the moment.
Yeah, it's quite interesting situation. We were talking about that earlier before this session. I mean, I ended up having to buy a brand new printer because I could not get the printer cartridges for my old printer. They said there's probably a 7-month delay. So you're forced into that. So tell us a little bit about how you got there. You've been there three years. So and also the evolution within Dell. Now Dell is a multinational organization, very well known for its laptops. I certainly was carrying one a few years back, one of those silver Dell laptops that they had, very reliable, etc. And certainly seen a lot of the promotions, advertising online, on television with that Dell customer service. So you're really focusing on customer service for not just the corporates, but also for the small business and people at home. But I mean, that puts, a tremendous pressure on you to be, I guess, a able to discuss things with people, and particularly now it's more online rather in person. So back to my question, I was asking how you got to where you are now. Did you jump into Dell as in this role, or have you progressed through it?
Yeah, I've got a super interesting background, actually. It's quite, my career's taken a few twists and turns. So
Love it.
I'm a Bachelor of Medical Science. So I suppose you might ask me now how I've ended up in technology. It was a bit of a happy accident, I suppose. Medical science is a very, progressive industry. It's always changing, always learning, and, you're always developing, and you're never going to know everything in the medical or the science industry. It's always, as we know now with the COVID vaccines and things, it's always progress and change. Similar to technology, it's all about human progression and enabling us as a species to kind of progress and improve. I worked in the medical science industry for a little while. I taught at uni. I then became a clinical specialist for a product, for a sleep apnea product, and worked in that field for a little while for 2 different companies. And then I ended up thinking that I would go back to uni for a little while. So I ended up leaving a job before I had anything else to fall into. Terrifying for someone like me. I'm a bit of a control freak.
Leap of faith, always exciting.
It was terrifying, exciting, exhilarating, but yeah. So I was unemployed for about 6 weeks, and I was going through that process of whether I, decided to go back to uni and whether I was going to do my honors in my forensics, in a forensics capacity. Decided against that. I got referred actually by one of my close girlfriend's husbands. He works in the data protection field for Dell. And he said, look, we're hiring at the moment. Would you be interested in working with Dell? I think you'd be a really great fit. And so I said to him, I've never had, I don't know anything about technology. I don't think I could do the job. And he basically said, you have all the core attributes. I've done the relationship management before. So when you're looking at thinking about sales and things, it's a real, people buy from people. People buy from people that they like, and that they get along with. Obviously, you want to be a subject matter expert in the products that you're selling, but I think it's really important to be a really personable and approachable person.
Absolutely.
And he said that you'll have all the technical people aligned to you. So you'll have a systems engineer aligned to you that will help you build out the solution. As long as you can navigate the business outcomes that the customer is wanting, you can match up those solutions and you work together to build that out. So I gave it a go, and here we are 3 years later, and I haven't looked back. I've really enjoyed the transition.
Wow. It's always interesting. I mean, I've said this before, and I'm sure I'm going to say it again and again throughout this this focus on careers, is you start off at school. We start off at school, and we're, ever since we're children, young children, people are talking about, what do you want to do when you grow up? What do you want to do when you grow up? As if it's this one package. This is it. It's like you sign up for it, and this is going to be it for the rest of your life. And some of us enter year 11 and 12, the last years of high school, pre-university, with that kind of mindset. And it's great to have someone like yourself talking about taking the medical science approach and committing to that and completing that, moving into that from a initial job, career strategy, and then utilizing your personal attributes, right? Your ability to deal with people on a human level, with some of your medical science technical aspects into this new role. And this is the thing that we want to encourage young people and people in career transition to think about, that it's not always pigeonholed. You're not always pigeonholed. As I said, I mean, I'm an accountant by profession, and I haven't practiced in say 20 odd years, right? So it's important to understand that, and that's fantastic. So moving into that, and now I wouldn't say that there are no similarities. I think with science and medicine has become a very technology-based industry. Yes. So you've gone technology to technology.
Yeah.
So what would be, some of you've mentioned a couple of them, being a personable person, etc. But what would be some of the key attributes to succeed in the kind of field that you're working in?
Yeah, I think you have to be really good at time management. The job that I currently work on, I align to probably about 20 different people from like a dotted line perspective. So I cover a geographical territory.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously there are people in the field that I align to. So it's a huge team effort. And because Dell Technologies is such a big company, as you mentioned before, it's also got a plethora of products, and so we can't know everything. So it's a huge team collaboration effort. So you definitely need to be really good at time management and how to manage different phone calls, and kind of you have to be good at juggling basically, and kind of good at prioritizing certain workloads, and being able to manage that. Have to be really, especially in COVID times, we're all working from home. You have to be really motivated and quite a motivated self-starter. You have to be organized and super efficient as well. So all kind of tying into the just time management and being able to kind of prioritize your workloads is super important.
So very disciplined in your approach. It was interesting. You mentioned time management, and quite often people look at time management from their own personal time, but you're also talking about the implications on other people who are depending on you, and people who then you in turn are depending on to package something for a client, be it an answer, solution, whatever, or response to a query. So that's very, very important in working with people. So I guess then, Erin, with pre-COVID, you would have been in an office environment where that ability to get up out of your seat and walk across to someone and have a chat to them and work with them on something. How have you seen the challenges of, clearly you're a very disciplined, very professional individual, to be able to do what you're doing for 18 months from home. But how have you transitioned that discipline from a work office environment to a ISO type situation?
I think that's probably been one of the things that I've struggled with the most. I think because I'm so disciplined and I have quite a strong work ethic, I want to be, and because I pride myself on my ability to be efficient, I have found myself working a lot longer hours. Not I think a lot of people are struggling with that kind of working from home, being glued to your laptop. I do have to take onus myself to kind of step back and take a proper lunch break and things, but it has been a little bit isolating, I think. I think everyone, we're trying to catch up all the time on Zoom calls and things like that, but the ability to kind of transition from not being able to get up and go and have that chat with someone, to kind of honing in and doing exactly what you need to be doing at home. It definitely pros and cons. I think a lot of people are finding they're getting a lot more done. But again, it's got trade-offs, right?
So what would you say some of the, we've looked at the attributes, and what would you say some of the things that are difficult some of the things that you find difficult or you like less than other things in your role?
Probably some of the administrative exercises, which I think in any job is going to have, back-end processes and internal processes that you have to kind of follow and do to get a job done. But because Dell is so big and just it's impossible to kind of know everything, we run into a lot of roadblocks. You kind of get a lot of pushback to sometimes get a deal done, in terms of whether it's pricing or legal. At the moment, we're going through a big contract negotiation for a massive deal that we've been awarded the tender for. And we forecasted this deal to come in for this quarter, and now that deal has slipped because of the ongoing contract negotiations. Our legal won't agree with their deal, and it's just so little things like that where it's just you're trying so hard to get a job done, but you're getting pushback after pushback after pushback when you're trying to follow the processes that you've been told to follow.
Yeah.
I think is probably the thing that I find most challenging. But I mean, as I said, you're going to get that with any job.
You go absolutely. I was just going to say that, and that's something that young people looking at careers really need to understand, that maybe you will get some work experience in a small local business, but large corporates, and having worked for a large corporate myself, absolutely, it could seem like bureaucracy to you, when you get into it, but there is a reason behind it all, right? Yeah. Contracts are important. They've got to be done right. No corners can be cut, etc. But yes, it can get very frustrated, and people need to understand that when they're going through looking at careers. Sometimes you'll find that can be a complete turn off for people, but I mean, it's a fact of life.
Absolutely.
So what about some of the great things? I mean, clearly you're passionate about your role. I could see you there oozing with enthusiasm. So there are clearly some great things there.
Yeah, absolutely. The team I work with is second to none. I absolutely love my team. And I think that's probably contributes to my want and my need to be efficient. I want to help and kind of execute to the best of my ability. So the culture of the company is really, really good. They're really supportive. We have a number of social responsibility groups, women in action. So there's a lot of the company is really behind, getting women involved in IT. We actually do some mentoring with UTS and high schools and things like that. So that's something that we could look at. A lot of environmental causes as well. So it's a really, really decent company. Like I really kind of enjoy what they're about and their culture code, and working with the team that I work with, and even like my colleagues in my immediate team. So while I cover a certain geography, I have obviously a team that I am part of, and I report into a manager. They're all really great, and if we ever have any trouble, we can always bounce ideas off each other to kind of solve what we need to solve. So I'm a massive people person. I think that's why I've kind of ended up in sales. So I think I will always value like a manager and the people I work with versus, maybe the particular product or, solution you might sell. I think that's probably one of the things that I value most.
It's great. It's clearly it's one of the things that people looking at careers and aligning your values and your culture and your social beliefs with the organization, or having an organization that you could be really proud of. You can feel very happy to wear that cap or that t-shirt or tell people I work for this company and be proud of it. That's very, very important. And I feel now more than ever, it's become even more important. People hold that very highly when they're looking at different organizations, looking at roles. They want to feel that they're part of an organization that they truly believe in. So that's very, very important. So, and I think, sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to say, and I find that the culture that we hold as a company also resonates with our customers as well. And we all often have, when we, go to bid for certain big deals, some of our corporate social responsibility and that culture code and value that we bring is super important to our customers as well. So not only does it impact you as a person, but it also helps and impacts our customers as well, which is...
So clearly, whether you're an employee or whether you're a customer, you want your brand, be it your personal brand or your corporate brand, to be associated with a like-minded organization,
Absolutely.
someone you can be proud of.
Yeah.
So, Erin, we've talked about, the attributes. We've talked about, things that are difficult and things that are less difficult. Tell us what an average day would be. I guess an average for you, it would be more than an average day, because it would be an average period from dealing with the customers. So does someone call you? Is it, or do you call potential customers? So how would that, without giving any trade secrets or anything like that?
No.
Just to give people a feeling, a flavor of how it works.
Yeah, cool. So it's probably a bit of a two-pronged approach. So we obviously have internal and external. So what I mean by internal, we have a plethora of products in our portfolio. So quite often I'll have many internal calls with my colleagues that I work with, trying to discuss the different opportunities that we're working on, seeing what action items need to be done, whether that's being quoting a solution, setting up a customer meeting, providing a demo of a product that we've got, and kind of just aligning our kind of pipeline in terms of our forecast. So I suppose that's the internal perspective. And then you've got the external perspective. So it could mean I'll be calling into a customer to talk about one of their existing assets that they've got, whether they need to refresh or renew. Sometimes I'm dealing with support issues if, one of their storage arrays has gone down, or they need a new disk drive, things like that, kind of typical end-to-end sales processes. And then we are also working with our solution architects to build out solutions for customers. So my days vary from day to day. It's quite very vast and few between. I suppose I can't necessarily pick a typical day, because they're all so different.
Well, it's just important to get, for people to get a feel for. Clearly it's positive to be an extrovert in what you do, because what I'm hearing is that you've got human interaction throughout the life cycle of what you do, from the clients right through to the engineers, to the legal counsel, to the the vendor legal counsel, etc. So
there's
so
people everywhere.
That's clear there. That's quite important. Now, Erin, just take a backward step here. Sure. I would imagine, having listened to you, and you're clearly a very articulate person, and from thinking about it, you need to be pretty good in your grammar and all the rest of it. So what would be, from a schooling perspective? I mean, clearly maths would have been a big thing to get into medical science, maths and probably biology or physics or chemistry and those sorts of things. And now they're still somewhere in the grey matter, somewhere in your mind, in your brain. They're probably great for trivia nights and things like that.
Does come in handy.
Yeah. But in this role, what are some of the key requirements from an education perspective, or from discipline perspective?
I think when you maybe see a job ad or something for a similar role to what I'm in, they do prefer a bachelor's degree. It doesn't really matter what kind of degree, like whether it's science, technology, commerce, marketing, communications. I think it's more about, you've shown commitment to furthering your education, and you would have had to have done certain assignments and exams and things to kind of get through that bachelor's degree. So from a schooling perspective, there is generally sometimes either a bachelor's degree required or equivalent working experience. So if you've been in a job for, say, 3 to 4 years in an administrative capacity, like reception, or just showing some sort of commitment to a longer term longer term job, they'll take that on as well.
Right. So that's interesting, and obviously being able to clearly communicate, both
Yes.
verbally and written is
Yep.
is an important attribute.
Yeah.
That you.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, as you said, English, grammar, typical. No, so yeah, grammar is super important. And I think that's something that comes with practice. And I think that's also why equivalent work experience is also considered. So say you left school in year 10 or year 11 or year 12 and you didn't go to uni, you worked for a couple of years instead, and then you decided to apply for a role such as this. I think that would still be considered as well. There's obviously also graduate programs that Dell does look at. So you can sign up for graduate programs, and then they'll help place you in a position. And then you come in as, say, like a sales associate, which is more of a cold calling, lead generation perspective, and then you can move up in the organization.
Right. And Dell, they do, like showcases at universities, mainly the technology ones, so
Yes.
UTS and...
Yeah, UTS we have a strong affiliation with, and we do some work with the STEM programs as well. So some of the schools do, I don't know too much about it, but I know I see some emails come out with our employee resource groups, and they're asking for volunteers to go and speak at high schools to kind of just show education, show that, you don't necessarily have to be a whiz in engineering or, an expert in technology to kind of come and work for a company such as Dell, trying to kind of socialize and normalize the perception, I think, that some people have that, and I'm guilty of that. I had the perception, oh, no, I'm not an engineer. I can't work for a company like Dell. So it's kind of just trying to, socialize that idea that, and there's you don't even have to be in Dell. There's so many different other opportunities, marketing, business operations, sales, obviously engineering. We need engineers and solution architects and things like that. But it's such a diverse company, and companies such that are so big generally have a wide range of jobs, not just sales.
I mean, normally, people on the street would say Dell and they say computers, right? But clearly there's a huge portfolio of products and services that organizations like Dell offer. Now, you mentioned something very, very positive, was the focus on mentoring and empowering women and other groups as well through that. How do you find it? I mean, technology for a long time was pretty much a male-dominated industry, mainly because, I guess, the technology focus was, boys were pushed into that, back in the 60s and 70s and what have you. But it's become, very, very, some of the most senior chief information officers I've met and known have been female. So there's been a significant shift, and you've mentioned that as well in your discussion on Dell as an organization. But from an industry perspective, how are you finding that the diversity of the gender diversity within the industry?
I think it's still something that the industry struggles with. I still think there is that perception that it is only for males, and that we are, it's getting better. It's getting better. I think, especially in my organization, I have a lot of female colleagues, and there is kind of we have a 2030 moonshot goal. We have I think there's 12 of them, but one of them is a 50-50 workforce split. So there is a massive push for, females and trying to get them, because I think as a female, you do bring that female perspective, and something that's just a bit different. And there's a lot of value that we can add.
Well, diverse organizations
Absolutely.
have diverse thoughts. I mean, when we're talking about diversity, where we're talking about diversity of gender and diversity of thought and attitude and opinions and experience and all these, and having a diverse, workforce is more than just the gender side of it. But
Absolutely.
you mentioned that there are organizations like Dell and a lot of organizations out there are doing their part. And so what we want to do is from a career focus on careers perspective is to enlighten young people out there to think beyond the stereotypes that have existed for a long time and not be afraid to move into different industries. I was speaking to a gentleman on who works in the heavy machinery industry, and more and more females are getting into that, which is great. So Erin, from a progression perspective, I mean, you've had several roles previously. You've moved into this role now at your current employer, Dell. And where do you see that? Do you have a plan? Do you have your own 2030 sort of moonshot to get out of lockdown? I guess would be the
that would be ideal. At the moment, I'm really quite happy in my current role. I've got a really good work-life balance. I'm getting pressure from all sides at the moment from internally because they obviously value the work I do, and I'm pretty good at my job. I don't want to toot my own horn, but
do it.
So there's kind of, I've actually been tapped on the shoulder a couple of times if I consider certain roles. I think the next step will probably be a field sales role, being that direct sales account executive. So I would then have someone like myself aligned to me. So there is a massive amount of career progression available. And there's so many different facets within Dell to move, whether that's from moving into a leadership perspective, so whether I manage a team or whether I go into be an individual contributor and that account executive role, which I think makes the most sense for me as my next step, and then potentially look at maybe a leadership role. I think account executive so working because at the moment I have probably over 2,500 accounts that I work with.
Wow.
Way I can understand and be across all of those accounts in the detail. So when you move into an account executive role, you have a smaller subset, maybe of 150 to 200 accounts, and then you kind of get to know those customers well.
Intimately. I get that. I get that. And that's important because, you clearly are in a career that rewards you for your efforts, and I think that's important. People want to get into careers that develop them personally and professionally and offer them opportunities down the line. So just to say that these roles are not dead end roles.
No.
But having said that, I guess some people quite enjoy specific tasks and specific roles and get very comfortable and want to stick in that. So it's at your speed rather than the organization's speed, which is a wonderful aspect to it. You mentioned your work life and the role itself, other than the fact that being in lockdown, we do tend to spend a little bit longer than we need to or should on the laptop, but in general, pre-lockdown and it was a good work-life balance for you.
Amazing work-life balance. Really, really fortunate to be in an organization that does really respect that outside life, and they know that there is life outside of Dell, even though some people do get caught up in the little Dell bubble, drink the Kool-Aid, and they live and breathe it. There are exceptions. So there are peaks and troughs where, say, we're working on an extremely large tender that we need to get for a large customer. I've worked, 12, 13, 14-hour days before.
All hands to the pump. So that
exactly.
happens. That happens.
But then your boss will say, what are you doing working so late? Take tomorrow off. Once this is done, take an extra day, you know, earn that time back. You've earned it. So kind of having that, you know, you put in the hard yards and the effort when it matters and when it needs to be done to get a job done. And then generally you'll be rewarded for that effort. More often than not, it's, yeah, as you said, there's, you know, pedal to the metal when you need to. And then you get that kind of balance back at another point.
Well, that's it sounds great. I mean, I might pop my CV into Dell. You've sold me. You've sold me on it. It's wonderful, Erin. Clearly, you're very enthusiastic about your role. It's wonderful to see somebody who has you know, gone down a path and then had the courage of your conviction to take a leap of faith. 6 weeks unemployment could be quite stressful to a lot of people, but you took that leap of faith. You followed you got lucky, but people make their own luck. A lot of people get tapped and told about a role that they don't do anything about. You made that leap, you took the initiative, and from that, look at it. As they say, the rest is history. You're doing very well in a career, and it's I mean, it's fascinating. It's fascinating to get an insight into such a transition and then a career in the technology industry. So thank you very much for your time, Erin. We're really grateful for that. If anybody out there has any questions for Erin, just ping them in the comments below, and we'll be able to get back to you. If you or someone you know has a great and interesting career, let us know, and we'll do our best to get you on. If you've got any questions about a career that we haven't touched on, again, drop me a line, and we'll be able to try to accommodate. I mean, I don't know about astronauts and things like that, but we'll give it a go. We'll give it a go. So once again, Erin, thank you very much for your valuable time. Enjoy the rest of your day in lockdown, and we'll speak to you soon, hopefully.
My pleasure. Thanks, George.